Welcome back, people. Today is July 23rd, 2026. Happy birthday to my sister. It's season 6, episode 30 of the Taxi Squad podcast. Yes, I know you're used to hearing Mike's voice, but today you're getting mine. Today we have an interview with Mike Gange of the Chicago White Sox scouting department. He's going to go through what he does as a scout, where he came from, how he got where he is, everything about the White Sox draft this year, as well as plenty of other topics that we get into with him today. So I hope you enjoy it. We're back to our regular scheduled programming with a special pod on Sunday, so stay tuned for that. But for now, enjoy the interview.
Come on, everybody, celebrate. The Taxi Squad is here today. So lose the blues, kick back and relax for now. We talk about sports and stupid stuff. We're probably wrong and it might get rough. So welcome back. It's the Taxi Squad. Yeah.
Welcome to the interview portion of today's episode. Today we are very excited to welcome White Sox Northwest area scout Mike Gange onto the show to talk about his life in baseball, run over the leading up to the MLB Draft that just happened, and how that plays into your role into the organization. Welcome to the show, Mike.
Mike, welcome to the show, brother.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us, man.
So I did a little bit of research, as anybody should do. And when you get into a situation like this, look it up. Who is he? Where does he come from? You have a very interesting story. You've been in baseball your entire professional life, correct?
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And then also, I assume, just like us, but way further, you played your entire childhood going up into it?
Yeah, not a very good player, but yes, I participated on teams throughout my college career, up until college.
Gotcha. Okay. So stemming from that, one, where did your interest in the sport essentially stem from? And how did you essentially get to where you are today?
Yeah. Wow. So it definitely came from my dad. My dad's from Long Island. He came over to Seattle when he was 19 years old, and raised me a Yankee fan. And, unfortunately, right, I got to set that aside right now, I know, but, when you're growing up in the 90s and the Yankees are on TV and winning world championships, and you have a guy like Derek Jeter, who's a role model. And, that's really kind of how, the love of the game, transpired into my life. And then I think it became just I'm a little second base guy, you could say. And so you're always just trying to gain an advantage over somebody. And it became a time in my career where I was able to, get notarized for hard work because,
nice.
I ended up getting some college opportunities and that type of thing. And so you just try to, I don't know, it kind of sucks you in a little bit. Right.
Oh yeah.
And, I always knew that, I was never going to be a player, right? Really beyond college. And college was definitely going to be my last stop. Okay. But I knew I wanted to get into coaching. And so I always kind of looked at the game kind of as a coach. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I tried to be a little bit more headsier than the guy that I was competing against because, I looked at the game as kind of as a coach or, a scout, I guess, in a way of just trying to see the whole field and trying to navigate where I can get an advantage.
You went to Washington, right?
Yep.
Is that your after college?
Yeah. So after college, I got a grad assistant job at the University of Washington.
Nice.
And that's really where, my passion for this thing really jump started because I had an incredible opportunity there with the guys that I worked with. Lindsey Meggs was the head coach at the time. And, Lindsey is a record holder winner. Okay. Mm-hmm. Everywhere he's gone, he has won from the Division II level to, the Division I level. And, he kind of put the Washington baseball program back on the map, I would say. Took him to the World Series in 2018.
I was going to say they're a team.
Yeah. It was a real team. And, the pitching coach at the time was Jason Kelly, who was one of the most renowned college pitching coaches in the country.
Mm-hmm.
Donegal Fergus was the hitting coach, who is now the head coach at LMU and did an absolute incredible job at UC Santa Barbara with their offense. And he's getting that LMU program rolling. And then Tanner Swanson, guys, was the was the volunteer assistant, and Tanner Swanson is now, the major league field coordinator for the New York Yankees and catching coach. He's kind of the world-renowned catching guy right now. So pretty incredible staff. And then I was just a grad assistant. And then a grad assistant next to me was a guy by the name of Billy Boyer, who is now Detroit Tigers third base coach.
Yep,
so,
I know that name.
Yeah, so
That's
just
awesome.
in terms of obviously I'm not making any money. I'm a grad assistant, right? But I'm getting just this I'm taking some online program just to be here, right?
So you're getting your master's in baseball. Yeah, that's all that was happening.
Exactly right. I got my master's in baseball. I got my master's in leadership, in how to be a good person, how to be a good baseball coach, and recruiting and scouting, and just how to work in a baseball office as a young kid,
Mm-hmm.
So it was, if it wasn't for that opportunity, I'm probably, working a 9 to 5, doing something different.
It's one of those dominoes fall situations, right? It's like the coin flipped the right way or whatever you want to say it. And you're like, hey, this moved me in the direction that I'm going in. That's kind of what it sounds like. Yeah.
That's exactly right.
I got
exactly
you.
Right. Yep.
So we talked about it a little before we were talking here, but I'm always interested in this because Mike and I grew up White Sox fans. We were going there when we were little. And then we get old enough and we're like, now we're adult White Sox fans. That's just the way that it rolls. It's never going to change. I'm never going north side. I'm always staying south side here. But so you work for the team. You live in Washington. You're a Yankees fan, as you've told us.
Raised the Yankees fan. Okay.
Raised the Yankees fan. What is that like? You just got to kind of throw that away. You're like, not a fan anymore. I like the White Sox.
Yeah. I'm way out.
Yeah. No. Southside till you die. I love it. That's awesome.
Yep.
So are we. That's amazing, man.
Yeah.
That's awesome, Mike. I mean, that's definitely something where, we like to think about it like it's got to be that fine line of yes, you have your fandom from a childhood, but now you work for an organization that you are truly invested in to grow and to become, a championship winner, which we've all been waiting for now going on 21 years. Oh, yeah. So we're ready for another. And to kind of, ease into another idea. By the way, give yourself more credit. So I did my homework on you as well, Mike. You are a 2-time first team in the North Region selection and a Gold Glove winning second baseman.
Come on.
So give yourself more credit than that. And you helped Western Oregon win 2 NAC titles. Come on.
It's just, like I said, I participated on the team and, I laid down that sack bunt when it was called upon and, I could make the short throw from second base.
Every second baseman isn't Jason Kipnis, you got to go out there and get the glove work in. Yeah, I got you.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right.
That's awesome, man. Well, so kind of to ease into that, how was your transition from then player to coaching, then to scouting? And do you foresee yourself in the future going back into coaching? Are you going to pull, are you going to be like a Donnie and become the youngest head coach in WAC history?
Yeah.
What's your future
guys,
look like? What are you thinking about?
Yeah, no, I'm here until they tell me to leave. I mean,
cool.
It's what's really unique about the Chicago White Sox organization is the leadership, guys. I mean, it is stinking unique. You have from someone like Chris Getz all the way down to Mike Shirley and Garrett Guest, to Josh Barfield and the player development staff that's kind of been revamped. I mean, it's a sexy time to be a Chicago White Sox fan.
I agree.
And
I agree.
And I think that's what continues to, these guys aren't stopping here. Yeah, I mean, the leadership is not it's about sustainability. This isn't about a big splash and head back down to the dumps of, the AL Central, right? This is hey, let's stay up here for a while, guys. And I think that's kind of what's being built, and hopefully no one comes in and plucks our guys either. Takes some of our guys away, because that's a real thing, guys. This is kind of a copycat industry, and if we're doing this, if we're doing something that other teams start paying attention to that they like, and who's to say that they don't give one of those guys a call and say, hey, come on over here and we'll back up the Brinks truck. So
Yeah.
hopefully Chris can kind of keep that leadership together and keep this thing chugging.
Oh yeah.
Well, Chris Getz is a former draft pick of the Chicago White Sox and then played for the Royals and then in the scouting department and all that. So, yeah, I mean, it's great to see a former player now GM be in this organization. If I'm not mistaken, Getz was a part of the scouting department for a long time as well, correct?
He was the director of player development.
Okay.
So he was running the farm. And so,
Interesting.
When you look at what that position entails, you're dipping your toe in all elements of the organization, right? Just like Paul is with us right now, right? Paul Yanish, he's doing an incredible job. He's another one that, I didn't mention earlier in terms of the leadership, but this train doesn't cook as fast as it's cooking without a guy like Paul's leadership. And so, which is again great. And so Chris knowing, I'm not going to speak for him, but from an outsider, from someone that's seen his career a little bit, like he knows the job, right? And one thing that I wanted to remind myself to tell you guys is that's what's I've noticed about this organization, which I think is pretty cool, is I think the leaders in each of their positions respect the other person's position, right? And so Mike Shirley really respects what Ryan Fuller does on the hitting end. Ryan Fuller respects what Mike Shirley does, right? So they're working together, and I think they truly respect it. Matt Grabowski, who is running our R&D right now, I don't know his fancy title, something with acquisitions, and but he's doing a fantastic job. And hey, guess what? He likes scouts. He's not saying I don't like scouts. Yeah, right. And I think when data gets involved and you have R&D departments, scouts want to put on their their boxing gloves, and the data guys want to put on theirs and say, hey, no, this is how we should select players. Well, that could be further from the truth.
Who's to say they can't work together, right? That's the idea,
exactly
right?
Right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
So to kind of add to that, Mike, as a scout, it's always interesting to kind of learn more about your day-to-day and like how your week in, month out, especially during college baseball season. Like, can you kind of give us some insight as to what does a week look like for you when you're traveling? And then how do you plan out your schedule? And then how much of it is it like old school scouting where cigar sitting in the stands, oh yeah, this guy's got what it takes, you see? Or is it more like data analytics where you're looking at swing rate, you're looking at, all of these things that now go into the game of baseball? It's a lot of data. We talked about R&D a little bit. Can you kind of give us a little insight as to what that looks like for you?
Yeah, that's a great question. So with my job specifically, right, as the area scout, I'm kind of the first one, I should say. I'm the identifier, okay, in terms of the talent in my region, okay? Now that starts actually right before the draft. There's a perfect game national event, which is selection of 500 high school players all across the country. I was sent to that event in Miami, Florida for 5 days, which was from the 30th of June till July 4th or 5th, whenever it ended. And that was starting on this coming year's class now. Okay, so that's kind of the funny timing of the draft. It's
a whole year out, essentially.
We haven't even selected. We haven't even selected this year's crop, and we're worrying about next year's, and that's just the speed of it. That's the pace that you got to be able to compete and go out and do the job, and still make sure that you're keeping a good pulse on this year's crop as well. So I digress, but in terms of like setting up your area, my job is to identify simply who are the professional prospects in my area and how do they line up accordingly in terms of priority down. Okay. So college Players definitely have more data than high school players. High school players now are starting to collect some data. It just becomes a little bit murkier depending on what events. How much are we actually digging into their data based on how clean it actually is. But yeah, data is definitely an identifier for a college prospect. So we will go throughout the fall. We will go to colleges and start identifying who are the prospects for this upcoming draft. And then from a high school perspective, we do a lot of the work in the summer because those guys don't play in the fall as much, right? So I would say high school summer is the biggest identifier for the high school crop for the next draft. The fall then becomes the college attention, starting in September out here.
Interesting.
Okay.
Yep.
Interesting. Now, some names that come to mind, if I'm thinking of your region, and maybe you can give us some insight.
Yeah.
Eric Segura. Okay. And then I'm going to butcher his last name. Cal Scolari.
No, you nailed it. Yep.
Okay. What were your grades on them coming into the draft?
Yeah.
That's interesting because that's right in your backyard. One's Oregon State, the other's Oregon. I've done some homework on Segura. He throws gas.
Yep.
So, like, what was your grades on them when you saw them and you bring it to the table and you're like, okay, I've identified X in these prospects?
Right. Yeah, and so when we identify guys, we do it in a couple different lanes, right? We do it in where we feel like they're going to go in the draft, where they fit, right, in terms of like their value according to the signing bonus, okay, the slot value. We also do it based on their future role, okay, and then we also do it on kind of their probability of getting to that role, right? If you have a high risk high school player that hasn't played against a lot of good quality competition, maybe you have a good role on him, but your probability is really low and you don't think he's very famous, so you can get him down in the draft, right?
Sure.
Segura and Scolari, I'm here to tell you that kind of all the stars aligned, okay? Now, which is cool, which is really cool, okay?
Yeah.
And listen, there is a pie chart of who's involved in the draft process, right? I have a small sliver of that pie identifying Cal Scolari and Eric Segura. Okay,
You're not handing in the paper?
What's that?
You're not handing in the paper to the commissioner saying we're taking this guy?
No. That's not quite me. Yeah,
I got you.
What's cool about it is, there's a ton of voices when it comes to draft picks. This is not, back to your comment earlier about the old, scouts of just kind of sitting there and smoking cigars and pounding the table and saying, I want this guy. That's not the case, right? You got to check a variety of different resources in our room, from data to performance, strength and conditioning, and then the scouting lens for sure, right? And then it's got to also, fit the bonus allotment of what we're willing to spend in that area. So back to Segura. Eric Segura was a high school prospect in Northern California that a handful of teams, I think, were willing to, kind of pay that $1 million threshold that most high school players kind of set. Okay. He ends up getting to campus at Oregon State and comes out of the gates really good. As a freshman, gets some significant innings for them, builds his way into a rotation starter. As a sophomore, becomes more of a hybrid starter, reliever. Had a little bit of strike woes at times that he ended up resolving. And then this year he came out and maybe was the most consistent arm out west. I think if you just look at his lines week by week by week, he got better as the season went on, but he never got bad to kind of like discourage your looks. You know what I mean? Like he really started to go like this, I would say, start trending up in that direction. And it's pretty cool to get him where we got him, because I was getting a lot of text messages from folks in our industry being like, dang it, that was my guy. I love that guy. That guy's got incredible, the one thing about Eric that I think's unique is he is a college right-handed pitcher with 3 years of experience, real experience in a real program. Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That also has professional upside. Okay. I can't wait till Bannister and his group get to this guy and really try to, focus in and hone in on his arsenal and develop it into, what you see flashes of when you're in the ballpark watching him in college. The life on this guy's fastball is maybe some of the best that I scouted this season. It's a little bit more of a sinker profile, but there's a route to two different fastballs, and he's got a breaking ball that can really, get rights and lefts out. And then there was a changeup there that kind of got hidden in his arsenal in college, but he had one in high school, and I think that's something that we're going to be able to tap into and bring that back to life.
You've had the opportunity now to you've been in it for a while. You've seen some of your guys go full life cycle and they're going out to play, and kind of what's that like for you seeing, hey, I saw this guy when he was 16 or 17 and now he's 23 or whatever, playing AAA, playing MLB. How's that kind of feel for you where you're like, I knew this guy was going to be good, or does that happen to you?
I don't, of course you have these little victories, right?
Yeah.
Of, hey, but it's more so telling my wife, hey, I told you so. But the reality of it is that's our job. Okay.
Right.
Our job is to find professional baseball players to go win baseball games for the Chicago White Sox. So to sit here and, say, hey, look who I found. Okay. Nice job. You did your job. Okay?
Right.
Now the nature of our beast is I'm starting on a new class. I'm going to go find these replacements for the guys that I just liked. Right.
Yeah.
And so I think we need to, that's the message that I would like to send to, maybe someone that doesn't get the scouting, point of view. Right. I told you guys earlier, here I am on a podcast, and that's not something maybe a scout is wanting to do all the time. Right. Because we want to kind of work in the shadows a little bit, not be as visible, but this is a rare opportunity to talk about what a great execution of a draft that we just had.
Yeah, and it was. And we're going to get into it shortly, but I kind of have a fun one for you. And I don't know if you've had it before, but along with this, you go to some obscure places, right? You're not always in, Seattle every single time or whatever it may be. What's maybe the weirdest place you've ever been, or what's the weirdest thing you've seen at a high school game, like a parent doing something? You've seen anything weird like that?
Man. There's definitely been some small towns that I've, dipped my toe into that, feels like you're maybe back in 1998, it's like, it's Pearl Jam and it's, like Spice Girl music, exactly. You're just like, huh? Do they know that, we've evolved maybe a little bit. But I the high school baseball genre is that's where you find those games, right? Because these kids don't collectively get recruited by one high school team in this region. They're spread all the way out across the Northwest. So I have gone in to the depths of the area that you walk into the ballpark and it's the whole town's there, which is really unique for high school baseball in this area. Right. And it's a very intimate kind of that's kind of like the scouting stories, right? The movies side of it, right?
Yeah.
You definitely have those, ball games that you attend. In terms of oddness and weirdness, I mean, there's just little things that will pop up that you're just like, huh, it's a little different.
I only bring it up because it's, even when we used to play back in the day, and we're from the Chicago area, we didn't go to the biggest high school. We played in a bunch of random games. Sometimes there's just parents or dads getting thrown out by umpires and stuff like that. That happens every now and then. And, it's always funny to kind of reminisce on that stuff.
Right.
You being you, though, you're a middle infielder by trade, I'd say, right? Do you,
Sure.
You obviously talked about you're seeing pitchers, you're seeing middle infielders. Do you have a positional focus, or are you just best talent? Where am I looking at? And is it kind of not difficult, but more so hey, my skill lies here, but I touch them all? Do you have a focus in that, or?
Yeah, great question. No, my job is to evaluate every position on the field and align them accordingly.
Okay.
However, you when I first got into evaluating, I didn't know much about pitching, right?
Mhm.
I basically held a radar gun and said that guy's pretty good because he threw it pretty hard, right? So as I've developed in this game, I think pitching has become something that I really had to learn, and I really had to lean on resources. I had to dive into kind of some of the data and analytics. Given my college background, I had a little bit of like a head start in that category, so I wasn't totally blindsided by the kind of like the introduction into data into our game. But I think the way pitching has evolved and trends and things of that nature, you still have to continue to learn on those things.
Yeah.
From the hitting side, I think it's a really fun skill to evaluate. I think those are some of the best scout stories because guys will go in and, not see a great game and bury a guy, and they walk out of there and that guy could be a Rock Chalowski one day, and you're you're going back, you have some sleepless nights looking at box score saying, wow, did I miss on that guy, right?
He goes over
Just because
4 for 4 tomorrow. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Hitting so precious in that way. And, we all think we have an idea of what the perfect swing looks like. And, but that's just not accurate.
Yeah.
It's so unique how guys have success with the bat.
Okay. So we were talking a little bit about your thought process to the draft. Can you kind of take us inside the draft room? Like, how does that evaluation process work once the scouting reports are in? I don't know if you got the opportunity to read the article from Jesse Rogers on ESPN. I thought it was fascinating. He's an awesome journalist as it is, and kind of a Chicago staple if we're talking about Chicago-focused journalism. It seemed like for a little bit, based on the article, there was a potential on the Sox looking at Grady Emerson over Rock, and based on the article, there was a 20-minute pitch on each player. Are you a part of the 20-minute pitch? It seems like that Chris Getz got up in front of the room reading the article and was like, all right, go.
Right.
Right. Were you a part of that process? Were you a fly on the wall? What is that?
I was not. I did not get the honor to attend that. We had basically our draft room became a little bit smaller in terms of the full scouting personnel, and so all the cross checkers obviously went, and then kind of our scouting leadership was there as well. So in terms of area scouts, to my knowledge, there weren't a ton there, if any, and so. That doesn't surprise me, though. I read the article too, and I learned about that. I mean, I think that was, again, that's why I think we executed a good draft, because we scouted everyone. There was no, right. As soon as we got the number 1 pick this last, offseason, you could have just stopped what you're doing and saying, hey, we're taking Rock Chalowski, right? I think, right. And that's obviously ended up what happening, but, it's not how Mike Shirley presented this opportunity for us. It was go scout everyone. Okay, let's go see if there's someone that is better than Rock Chalowski. And that's again why I applaud the leadership, because a lot of guys could have taken the year off. What Carlos Muniz did down in Southern California, who represents the area that Rock is from, how many guys he had to communicate and orchestrate in terms of bringing into town, whether it was guys like Jim Thome or Barfield or I don't know where Getz saw him at, but that was an incredible job that Carlos did. Okay, like it takes a lot of responsibility to to have a player of that stature in your area, not just because of the evaluation. Like that's the easy part, right? I could write a report on Rob Chalowski all day. I love it.
He's good.
But
yeah, right.
Yeah, he's pretty good. Yeah, he's pretty good.
Quite good.
But it's more so about everything else that goes into the job aspect, right? So, and the same thing with Alex Glenn in Texas with Grady. Like, we scouted that kid until, what it sounds like, until the bell was about to ring, right? And again, he had to put up with a lot of people coming into town and getting guys situated into the games, and that's why those are the stories that a lot of people don't understand about the job as well, right?
Yeah.
There's a rhythm to this of working with so many different people, because player development coaches now will attend games once kind of the list gets set, right?
Yeah.
Phil Nevin, I don't know exactly what his title is with us, but is obviously just a baseball savant.
Absolutely.
Right? With his expertise and knowledge. And, this guy was going out and watching some of the, best high school players or college players in the country as well, spending some time on the amateur draft. So, again, there's a lot of people that, are asked to go get opinions of players, and a lot of us have the responsibility of orchestrating that and coordinating it.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, so we were Rock guys through and through. When it was announced, we're like, we love this guy. He also, I don't know if you know this about Chicago, but he's got just about the most Chicago name of all time. It's like a Rock Chalowski. We grew up with 15 Rock Chalowskis in our time, so we're excited. We're excited about that.
He's a Southsider. It's perfect.
No question. Did you get a chance? Did he end up coming into your area? Did you get the chance to see him play? And what's kind of your read on him as a scout yourself?
Yeah, I saw him back in high school, of course, on the circuit when he was, playing in just about every high-profile high school event in the country. So I saw him there. I have some sort of follow report on him in the system back then. And then I saw him all the way coming up in college, okay, because I was on the college baseball side and UCLA was in our conference.
Oh, yeah.
And so I saw Rock play third base in college when their starting shortstop was a draft prospect that year. And then that kid got hurt and Rock slid over to short. And, the rest was obviously history for UCLA in terms of who was going to hold that position down for the next 2 years. So, I kind of saw the evolution of the player, I guess you could say, a little bit from kind of touch points throughout, the past 3 or 4 years. I did see him this spring 2 separate times. I saw him down in Southern California on an assignment that I got kind of sent out to go chase down some guys in Southern California. And Rock was, happened to be one of those guys just to go, again, if I would have said, hey, guys, pull the plug on this guy, I don't know. They're probably not saying, okay, you got it, Mike. But it was good to go see, him do his thing. And it was against Sac State on a Sunday, and man, he whacked 2 homers for me. And, it was exactly what you expected to see. And it was exactly what I had seen in the past. I mean, in 2025, when I was at Washington, we were down at UCLA, and I've never seen a kid leave the weekend hitting so many doubles. Like doubles are kind of hard to hit.
Yeah,
doubles are kind of hard to hit, right?
What, just gappers?
They got to stay in the yard for one. Yeah. Okay, they got to be hard enough to get by somebody, another, right? Like there's a lot of a lot of things that go into just hitting doubles, and I think he maybe had 4 or 5 doubles that weekend. It just seemed like every time the guy moved the bat forward, it was going in a gap, and he plays the game with this grace that I think if you're on the opposing team, you hate, and if you're on his team, you love. So that's kind of the way I would summarize him, just from an opponent standpoint of, I can't stand this kid because he makes his game look so dang easy.
Yeah. No, his hit tool is insane. His glove is amazing. Yeah. That was our whole thing. We were just watching, all the highlights. Like, I think this guy's going to be pretty good. I'm pretty excited about that. That is the number 1 pick, but I think you kind of make your job in those middle rounds, right? I'd imagine, you can write a Rock Chalowski. Yeah. So when you're
Sure.
looking at that, obviously you're not like Rock Chalowski, you're like, he's going to be an MLB guy. That's just what's going to happen. You get to 9, 10, 11, whatever it may be, and that changes a little bit. Do you look for, let's say, professional potential, or are you like, hey, this guy's got 2 great pitches? There's a chance that he can end up being something out of that. Like, what's kind of the mentality going into that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the mentality of it is still finding the best player in the right round, right? I mean, that just doesn't go away. Now, you might be able to be a little bit more specific towards what the minor league rosters need right away. Hey, we don't have a catcher in high A or something like that, and that becomes a priority. Or our catching crop is short in the organization, so we need to try to draft and develop that crop. But it still comes down to just the best player, man. I mean, that's simply put what we're trying to execute. And I think I touched on it earlier, just in terms of like the sustainability mindset that Chris and Mike and the leadership have all kind of like bestowed in us, just in terms of like, this isn't just a 1-year splash and we're going to, go away. We need to try to keep this thing going. And so that's why you look at some of these big names that we were able to get. And again, I didn't have anything to do with it, but just to see, Cam Johnson from Oklahoma be, a later round pick, the Holcomb kid from Vanderbilt. I mean, these guys all, to a man, I think probably had first, second round grades coming out of high school. Now, whatever happened in college and, but they didn't end up kind of maybe living up to that, but that doesn't mean that we can't garner some of that talent back and get it back into our organization. So I think that's kind of just what you're looking for, though. But there's still a continued process. My evaluation of a guy going in the 7th, 8th, round also needs to get through the data side of things, right? It has to go through the performance side of things with Jeff Head, and it's got to kind of pass these gatekeepers, right? And then once we all agree upon it, that's awesome. That's a great pick. Now we all agree upon a talent that we're all excited to get behind.
And then you hope he's there. That's the last
good.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. I had just a quick funny story. I had received a text from our West Coast supervisor in the draft room, and we ended up taking a 14th rounder out of Oregon State who, we all liked. And, he had texted me and said, hey, I think we're getting close. I think this is it. Like, so it's at the top of the 13th round, and he goes, maybe we're going to do it here. Well, we don't, right? We move on, we pivot and go somewhere else and take another great player. Okay. Well, now I got to wait. Not just me, but now we have to wait. An entire round, which seems like an eternity.
Sure.
Okay?
Yeah.
I'm sure.
It just seems like an eternity. And, you're obviously trying to be competitive in a way of, man, I hope this team doesn't take him. And I hope that team doesn't take him.
Every single pick, you're like, geez, please give it to us. Yeah.
That's right. Now, ultimately, like, if we would have not have selected that player, I'm not going to take my ball and go home. Like, we probably got a really good player. Like, that's the other side of this, like, collection part. There's no ego. You can't have that type of ego, right? You can be competitive and try to want to get a guy and, try to make all your nights on the road in a hotel count for a player that you ended up signing. But, at the end of the day, it's about the club, and it's not about yourself. So.
Absolutely.
Well, Mike, I would say they do take your advice on pitching, especially from Oregon State, because clearly we took like half of their starting 5. So I know you're talking about Isaac Yeager.
Yeah, Isaac Yeager. Yep.
It's interesting because Cal Scolari, Eric Segura, even though Cal goes to Oregon, and then Eric Segura, Oregon State, and then Isaac, Oregon State as well. So clearly they like your input on the Oregon pitching. because I mean, to your point, like they wouldn't be taking him if your reports weren't what they were. So that's kind of cool.
Well, maybe they would have, but it wouldn't have been as cool. Maybe it would have been as cool. Yeah.
That's awesome though. So like, how is that feeling? Is it like these, like you make that report, you turn it in, hey, this is a guy, are these guys like, attached to you almost like a quota? I couldn't like relate it to like a salesperson. Like, is there a development and where they get to the next level, or once they're in the system, you're on to trying to find the replacement right away?
Yeah, it's just the replacement right away, right? You're just kind of sending them off to, it's like parents growing up having kids and sending them off to college, right? And then check back in, during winter break, So my work with those guys is done outside of maybe having some, long or some tired nights looking at box scores if they have a struggle, right? Because I obviously want those guys to succeed and have an awesome experience and a great career in our organization. But outside of like the development piece and chiming in, that's why we have a great development staff. That's their duty now.
And to kind of add to that, like just evaluating where the White Sox are as a whole right now and looking at our farm system across the board, some names, like, for example, you look at, Billy Carlson, you look at Caleb Bonnemer, you look at Kyle Lodice. All these guys have things in common where they're middle infielders. Is there some perspective shift over now, let's just say the last 5 years, that you can pinpoint from the player acquisition side and maybe a model from going from the Rick Hahn era to now the Chris Getz era, where there's been a noticeable concentration on specific positions? I'm not going to say that is the case, but just from your seat, have you seen a shift going from one GM to another and what that focus is from an organizational standpoint?
Yeah. I think there's maybe a bias towards the middle of the field a little bit, or maybe not even a bias, but just a direction that wants to be added more. And, I can't speak on Rick's behalf, but I'm sure if there was a great player in the middle of the field that he really wanted, he would have attacked him too. So I do think there's maybe a collection of a certain direction that we wanted to attend. Chris, sets that, and Mike completely, follows suit with it, and then gives us, that opportunity to go find those types of players. But I don't think if there was a corner infielder that we really liked that, could really hit, or whatever the skill set was that separated him versus peers, I don't think they would say, you're wrong, right? Or we're not going to take that guy, right? For example, a right infielder. Okay, well, I think Vargas is a pretty good player.
You think?
One may say that Vargas the man.
Yeah, we'd like to probably have that guy right in the draft, and I think that's maybe the direction that's been sent. I think we've executed it. Mike and his group and Garrett Guest have executed that beautifully, and that's just kind of the collection of where we're at right now. And again, to get a guy like an Antonacci, he's playing left field and learning left field. Like there's a reason why we go after shortstops and middle of the field players, because they are there. Yeah, I mean, there's utility, skill set, and talent that they have that corner players tend to struggle with.
We said that for months now, where it's just like, hey, shortstops, center fielders, some second basemen are very athletic. They're very athletic, and they can probably figure it out. Shortstops and center fielders are some of the best fielders on the diamond. So you can imagine that they could figure it out if you need to. So
that's right.
That being said, don't want to keep you forever, obviously. So I appreciate you coming on today. We have one more question for you. Which player in the system has, for you and maybe somebody that you scouted, has made the biggest leap where you're like, maybe you're like, he might be good, and you're like, he's way better than I thought. Is there a person in your mind that way where you're like, this guy's way better than I even thought was going to happen?
I think you just gotta love what Bonnemer's doing. I mean,
He's so good.
and
He's so
I know
good.
it's
Yeah.
I know it's an obvious one just because of the success that the kid's been having, and again how easy he's making that hitting skill look, which
Mhm.
is not that easy as he
No,
makes
God,
it
no.
look. You know? I think that's a really cool organization win because that just goes back to a really tough demographic of a high school bat that you have to believe in.
Yeah.
I can remember being on the area code staff, on the underclass staff back in 20, I don't know, let's call it 19 or 2019, I think.
Okay.
And Colson was on it.
Indiana, yeah.
And I remember, at Indiana. Yeah. Yep. And I remember leaving that event being like, hey, that guy's pretty good. Like he made things were pretty easy for that guy. And we had an evaluator in our organization who has moved on to a different role with someone else. And he's like, man, you should watch this guy play hoops too.
Yeah.
Right?
I was going to say he's like a 4-sport athlete. Yeah.
Yeah. And baseball was just kind of like, it was the time of year. And so he was playing it. And he didn't stand out like a sore thumb. But once you started to dive into the athleticism component, and then obviously what Mike Shirley has done with the relationship with the player and, knowing him from a, very young age and watching the development progress over time. I think watching what that guy's doing in the big leagues is like a really special organization story because I think a lot of people expected him to move off a short and,
we
maybe
did.
one day he does, but
I was going to say, I wouldn't lie. We did. We thought that. Yeah.
Did you? Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe one day he will, but he's not right now.
He's got a good glove.
Right?
I was going to say, yeah.
He's a hell of a middle infielder, and he's, to your point, very, very athletic. I mean, surprisingly athletic. Some of these barehanded plays he's making, you're like, that came from him?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And he's got more home runs before in a first year of any or second year of like any player over the past decade in the MLB. Right. It's impressive. He's, he's averaging a home run every 13 at bats. It's silly.
And he hasn't graduated his sophomore year in the big leagues.
Right.
So crazy.
Yeah, I think he just got into a full 162 not too long ago at that point. So yeah,
right. So what's maybe that look like down the road? So just back to your question. I mean, I only bring up Colson just because I saw him with the best prep players in the country at an event for 3 or 4 days, and thinking this guy's athleticism stands out. The skill component was somewhere to improve, and you bet on the athlete where the skill develops, and here we are, right? So just watching a guy kind of reach his peak is pretty cool.
It's got to be cool, yeah.
And he really, Colson turned it around because I'll never forget 2 years ago watching him in spring training, and he was struggling. He couldn't find his zone. He couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. And then they sent him to Arizona just to fix the swing. I don't know who's responsible for that, but boy, oh boy, whatever those tweaks worked because he is crushing right now. You love.
I think Ryan Fuller gets a ton of I think Ryan Fuller gets a ton of credit for that. And Ryan's got probably an army around him that supports kind of his narrative. And I once again talk about Colson Montgomery to be like, yeah, okay, I'll go grab a reset down in Arizona, leaving AAA. What kind of it's a special humbleness to be able to go and do that, right? And
that could kill some people. That could kill some people. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So
that's great. I mean, Mike, I guess, for us, this is just such a pleasure and that we get to dork out on this stuff. I guess one question I kind of want to leave it with is okay, out of this draft class, yes, Rock is him. And then Landon Tomey, of course, that's clearly a lineage pick that we're plugging there. And I've met Mr. Tomey. He's one of the kindest humans I think I've met in my life, who's a former professional athlete, just a really nice human. If you had to throw a dart who's getting to the show quicker out of this draft class? Like if you had to look at maybe a guy we're
outside
not thinking
Rock.
of.
Outside of Rock.
Outside of Rock, because I think Rock, I mean, let's face it, Rock's probably going to be at the next level sooner than anybody could imagine. But just if you had to, give us your opinion, what would that be?
And this is just straight dart opinion. Like I got no info on any of these guys, but the Joey Volchko 3rd round.
Yeah.
Eyes
lit up.
Yeah. I mean, the range of outcomes for that kid is pretty impressive. He could be, kind of a Sean Burkish maybe type of story in terms of how good, and quality this kid's going to develop into. I'm not comparing him to Sean. I'm just saying from just a big stature, hard thrower, quick riser, gonna, maybe surprise people in terms of holding down a rotation, spot, is something that he's probably more than capable of doing. And I think we don't take maybe Joey Volchko unless we feel like we can tap more into this kid, and with what he offers right now, without our help is already impressive. So I think from, again, watching him from his prep days, he's from he attended Stanford, and out in Northern California, guys really liked him out of high school, goes to Stanford and did a nice job there, and maybe felt like he wanted to go to a different scenery. And that Stanford staff is awesome, and they're great. And he ended up betting on himself and ended up at Georgia, and looks like they tapped into something there that maybe he wanted to dive more into, and here he is. So again, it's kind of a bad answer for you, just because this is a guy that's 6 foot 100 and throws 1 billion miles an hour with a great slider, and he's already got major league talent. But I think that's
probably a good place to put it, though. I would say, I'm with you on that. So
that's right.
He reminds me a lot of Kopech.
There you go.
Just the subtype of what he is. He throws really hard. He's got some interesting breaking pitches, and I really dive and dork out crazy on the College World Series. So I got a chance to watch him. And then I grew like a particular following to Daniel Jackson, their Silver Spikes winner, their catcher. That kid hits moonshots, absolute beast at the plate. So that was hope. Somebody I was looking at like, all right, well, maybe that's a long-term play for us. But then clearly the Rockies had other decisions on that. So
that's right.
But
that's right.
Yep. Yeah. Well, Mike, we can't thank you enough for joining us and doing this. We appreciate you taking the time out just to be a part of the podcast, and we look forward to staying in touch with you in the future and potentially doing this again.
Oh, fellas, happy to, honestly, happy to, and thanks for what you do for bring more attention to I guess scouting, but of course our organization with the White Sox.
Absolutely. We're the best team in Chicago. Come on.
We're back up. Tell everybody you know. We love it.
Talking Tales with Mike and Vince. Oh, jazzy beats while we dispense. Yeah,